All right, hockey fans, yet another surprise for you Panther fans, for you NHL fans, for you hockey fans, especially for the Western Conference fans. I've got Nick from Twisted Wrister Hockey here. Now, we've already had Randy Moeller, the best play-by-play, or excuse me, the best color guy in the game. And now we got the best voice on YouTube with Nick. This guy, seriously, I don't know. He could. I would love to hear you call like something that was extraordinarily chaotic and hectic, and it would just be this calm, soothing, deep voice. You know what I mean? It's like, well, he got thrown up against the wall, like boxing. You would be like the perfect boxing announcer. Just like, boy, that one had to hurt. I mean, just like this, the perfect deep voice for it. So, how you doing, my friend? We're going to talk some Western Conference hockey, and by we, I mean I'm going to ask you questions, and you know the drill.
Yeah, man. Hey, it's playoff hockey, best time of the year, right?
No, yeah. Well, yeah. The best time of year is now, and then the day after they raise the cup, and then we get to go take a nap. Right?
For sure. A long awaited nap.
A long awaited yeah. Nick and I are already don't text us tomorrow, okay? Don't I have stuff to do tomorrow. Well, don't text Nick tomorrow. Leave Nick alone. All right? He's gonna need a day off. So, all right. I just want to go over each series real quick, real short. Just want to get your take. You're kind of the more of the Western Conference expert than I am. So we're just going to start right off. All right, Colorado, Seattle, just like everybody expected, right?
Well, to some people's surprise, the Kraken actually were the better team in the season series. I know the Avalanche have had a ton of injuries, but Seattle has been a tough team this season, obviously making the playoffs in just their second year. But the Avalanche, I still think are a team that you can't take lightly by any means. I saw them, in a game recently against the Oilers, and the way they were able to contain their top attackers was very impressive, even without Cale Makar. So I still think the Avalanche have the capability of, at least I would say, winning this series and perhaps going further. The Kraken, though, they're a team that has just a ton of depth. I think they're maybe the deepest team in the NHL if you want to look at scoring depth from the forwards and also from the defensemen. Somebody like Vince Dunn just erupted for 64 points. And you had Jared McCann on the top line with Matty Beniers and Jordan Eberle. But below that, you have players who a couple bounce back seasons or just, getting steady contributions from the likes of a Yanni Gourde or a Daniel Sprong or a Alex Wenberg, just to name a few players.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing for me, I find it extremely interesting at being the kind of, they're not an expansion team anymore. Obviously, it's their second season, but so you've got that mini experiment going on. And then Colorado did something that not a lot of teams do, which is win a cup and then send their goalie pack and get a new one. So I'm really interested to see how that works out, because usually when a guy takes to a cup, the first thought isn't we need a new goalie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Georgiev's been an upgrade, I would say. I was probably his biggest doubter going into this year. But yeah, he was magnificent. And with the Avalanche, they showed last year you don't have to have a Vezina caliber goaltender necessarily to win a Stanley Cup versus a team like Tampa with Vasilevsky the previous 2 years. I won't get into that too much, but they're a team that just knows how to hang on to the puck or at least be responsible with it and just pressuring opponents when they do have the puck in their own end. And with that being said, then that way you're not leaning on your goaltender as much.
Yeah. I'm hopeful that the series does 6 games. I'm hopeful that Seattle has a good showing. I know Colorado has all the experience, but Seattle's not chopped meat. So we'll move on to the next series, which is Dallas and Minnesota. Now, the one thing I found interesting was, with the difference in goaltending, right? With Minnesota, you don't know if it's going to be Fleury or Gustafsson, and then of course, Dallas knows who they're rolling with. Who do you like there? And to me, that's one of the series that kind of has a chance to just really, really be good. That's one that not many people are talking about.
Yeah, with the Wild, they're not I know Kaprizov aside, they're not maybe the flashiest team in the Western Conference. This year, they kind of got back to what they were successful with earlier before sort of that era started, and that was defense and goaltending. I'm talking about back in the days of Dubnyk and even Backstrom before him. But yeah, you have a good tandem for the Wild, and both of those goaltenders played well down the stretch, or at least the numbers would indicate it. But if I mentioned this in my preview, that if I'm Dean Evison, I'm sticking with Gustafsson because he had like a 940 save percentage in his last 19 games. So that's pretty telling. Fleury was at 924. That's nothing to scoff at.
Nice problems to have.
Right. Yeah. But with the Wild, I mean, that helps because their even strength scoring this year has been actually toward the bottom of the NHL. So I would think that they want to get into a more, I guess, kind of counter-based game, or, they don't want to be taking too many chances with their defensemen up ice, that sort of thing. Dallas certainly has some weapons to burn you, particularly on the top line. But yeah, you saw some of the depth scoring come through with Dallas, and that's something we've talked about before because people would always say, well, Dallas is a one-line team. But yeah, like Jamie Benn, right? He had a completely unexpected season where he was a point-per-game player, essentially. But then you also have a great goaltender in Jake Ottinger. So who knows? We could see a pretty low-scoring series out of this one, I would think.
Yeah. All right. The next series, we're gonna I just hired before we got on the video I did before. I hired Randy Moeller to convince Panther fans how they would have an opportunity to win against Boston. So I'm hiring you to convince Jets fans that they have a chance against Vegas.
Yeah. To be honest, I really don't know all that much about the Jets, but if I do know one thing, it's that they have Connor Hellebuck, so he would have to win the goaltending duel there. I talked about this on my preview in that neither team does anything. If you look at like the major statistical categories, neither team is particularly amazing at one thing. But I was watching the Knights in their last game against Seattle. They won consecutive games against them. The Knights, they are a counter-based team, or at least that's how I had seen that game. They know where to be at all times, and they're able to, I guess, kind of capitalize on opponents' mistakes. If they get Mark Stone back, that could make them a pretty damn deadly team in the Western Conference. I could see them doing some damage. And recently it's been Laurent Brossoit, former Jet goaltender Laurent Brossoit, who has been manning the pipes and doing a terrific job. But even if he's not there, you still have, if he's healthy enough, Logan Thompson, who was part of that Calder Trophy conversation a while back. You got a great defense that can also add some scoring too, in the likes of Pietrangelo, Theodore, and then behind them you've got Alec Martinez or even Braden McNabb. So the Knights, I think, are deadlier than even though they pretty much had the lead in the Western Conference for a lot of this season, or at least in the Pacific. I still don't think that people are really hyping them up just enough. And again, if they get their captain back, who knows? They could be turning some heads.
Yeah, Vegas is well, they had 1 year where they weren't in, but I mean, they've got the experience, right? Okay, I think that's kind of why people are kind of like, yeah, Vegas. How like in football, whether it was when there's a team that's good every year or whatever, it's like, yeah, we know Vegas is good, but you kind of don't expect them. My pick, and I'm not going to give it all away, but we'll talk about that at the end. I like Vegas. I like, not all the way, but I think, look, they have managed to stay close, and obviously now they're the number one seed. They've managed to stay good for quite some time, in the sense that you kind of thought maybe they peaked. You know what I mean? That first couple of years was like, you thought, and then, but they haven't really. They've been able to keep reinforcing things and keep it together. Which, to be honest, I wasn't. When they started making moves like getting rid of Gallant and getting rid of Fleury, I kind of thought, what are they doing? But they've, that's why I'm not a GM. So the last series, this one, if Edmonton, I have a lot of Oilers fans that communicate with me every once in a while, and if there's any team with the most amount of pressure on them, in my opinion, it's Edmonton. And man, you just can never count them out. So who do you like there?
Yeah, I think that a lot of folks have validated that they are under some pressure on my channel, or at least I've gotten a lot of input about that. And yeah, they have a fantastic opportunity. I did talk about the Golden Knights and if they get Mark Stone back, but if they don't quite have him, or the Avalanche haven't gotten back a healthy Cale Makar and Landeskog's out. I mean, if you look at this on paper, the Oilers have the capabilities to make this deep run. We saw last year McDavid and Draisaitl just a complete coming out party where they just dominated for the most part. Then they got to the conference final and got swallowed up by the Avalanche. I still think that they have pretty good supporting cast members when it comes to the forward group, and then defensively. I look at Matthias Ekholm, who they acquired at the deadline. I think Oilers fans are pretty happy with how he's playing right now. Evan Bouchard, he could be quarterbacking their power play. He finished the season really strong, and I like their goaltending more with Stuart Skinner versus where they were last season. Even though it was interesting because Mike Smith had like the same numbers as Skinner, but right. I'd have to look on paper. But to me, Skinner is the more consistent goaltender,
right.
And we don't have to worry about him coughing up the puck when he's trying to handle it behind the net. So, like for real,
right.
So I think Edmonton's a very strong club, absolutely, and one regulation loss in their last 15 games.
Jeez, yeah. So we'll get to the picks here.
What about the Kings?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, no. I already thought they got eliminated. Just you were eliminated already, but no. Go ahead, bud.
Did you have any idea that the LA Kings had the third best power play in the NHL this year?
Really?
Yeah.
Now, was it consistent? Because I know the Panthers have this habit of being the worst power play in the league for the first 30 games, and then we'll play so good the next 30 games that we're like top 5, and then we'll fall off again. So were they consistent, or?
I couldn't tell you that, honestly.
Good question. Yeah.
But, I mean, they've got more weapons. I mentioned this. I say, the LA Kings have more weapons than you would think, consider if you were, had been out of the NHL for the last couple of years. It's not just, Kopitar and Doughty's team now. They've got Kevin Fiala, who's been an excellent addition for their team. You've got Philip Danault down the middle. Quentin Byfield had kind of his first NHL season and, made some good impact there. I think he's going to be a beast going forward. And then you have, Kaliev, another young guy for that team. I know I'm missing one of the other big names. Arvidsson, he's scored some clutch goals in the playoffs. And then they bring in Jonas Korpisalo, who he was like the worst goaltender in the NHL last year, but he played 11 games for them so far. And he has like a 921 save and I think like a 2.13 goals against average. Jeez. So if he can keep the fire burning, I think of a certain Kings goaltender back in the day when nobody was expecting them to do anything, and he carried them all the way to a Stanley Cup final. And now they have a competent offense that can really complement that.
Yeah, that's one series I'm definitely going to be watching on the off nights. So I've got, and we'll just get to the conference finals and the finals. I like Vegas and Edmonton for the West. You're shaking your head, yes.
Well, they would have to play each other in the second round.
They would have to play each other in the second round. Well, then how did my bracket? What did I do in my? Hold on a second.
Okay.
Let the old man cook here for a second. What was my bracket? Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't even remember what. Okay, well, I gave away the second round, Vegas and Edmonton. But for the conference finals, I've got Colorado and Vegas. That's who I've got. Agree or disagree?
I think that's pretty agreeable. Again, the Oilers are the sexy pick, and me being a Sharks fan, do you think I want Vegas anywhere near the final? No, I don't. But I think I've made a good case for them nonetheless.
Right.
I strangely, even though I was high on Dallas going into the season, and they've been pretty much the team I was expecting. Mason Marchman aside, he had like this crazy goal scoring drought.
I don't know.
I have this weird feeling that Minnesota could actually kind of come out of nowhere and do something. So I'm going to make a wild kind of, I didn't, no pun intended there, but you know what I mean. I'm gonna strangely say this. Because I haven't made official predictions really, but I'll say, God, come on, Edmonton, just 97-29 all the way. Let's say that they win in the conference final. over the Minnesota Wild, 2003
Wow.
Minnesota Wild run. Why not?
Wow. So, all right, Eastern Conference in terms of just the finals. Now, look, I'm just gonna stop. You guys can already preemptively start laughing and then stop laughing. I'm gonna preemptively say stop laughing when I give you my Eastern Conference Finals prediction. Keep in mind the prediction that I made before the preseason, and I'm not going to undo my own prediction on the off chance that the juju was good. So I have the Eastern Conference Finals at Rangers and the Panthers.
Well, I hope you're right with at least one of those teams. I really like New Jersey. I think if there's any team that is, I think the best bet for the Bruins to be eliminated is in the form of the Devils. I know that the Devils lost their last game against Boston toward the end of this year. It was 2-1 in a shootout. So, once you get past regulation in the regular season, that doesn't really mean anything when you're talking about the playoffs, right? So I think New Jersey actually comes out of the Metro side of things. And and I'll say that, they match up against Boston, but I still think the Bruins take them down. So we get a 1990 Stanley Cup rematch, Bruins over the Oilers. That's probably, that's kind of my best guess, but it's not necessarily the most original.
Yeah, I get you. No. Look, it's easy to pick the Bruins. I get it. I get it. I'm telling you, Game 7 is going triple overtime. All right.
Who scores the series winner?
For Hagee.
Who else? Right?
Exactly. Who else?
Yeah.
All right. So Nick, you've got a lot of different things going on. Go ahead and take as much time as you need to let people know about your channel, what you've got going on with the memberships. If you want to plug the other channel, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I only mentioned Connor Hellebuck with the Jets. So if there's any Jets fans watching, they do have weapons on their team, right? Nikolai Ehlers finished the season strongly, and that's good because then that way that gives them a speedier option, in transition and that sort of thing. So we'll at least give them that. If you guys like sports in general and not just hockey, do check out my second channel. That is Sudden Death Sports. My most recent video was on the greatest or the craziest NBA rivalry ever between the New York Knicks and the Miami Heat. So that should definitely conjure up some nostalgia for those of you my age. So we got that going on there with these kind of like mini documentary-esque productions there. And I'm also giving away an Adidas NHL jersey through my NHL.com bracket challenge for anybody who becomes a member. It's as little as $3 to join. And so then that way you have a pretty good chance of winning one of those. You can also just check out my overall playoff preview video. So then that way you can see my takes on all the teams involved. And we have a bracket challenge that's also open to everybody with a prize there.
Yeah. And definitely consider joining the membership. Nick, I think you put out more videos on for the members than you do on your regular channel. I mean, he does a lot of work. He absolutely does a lot of work. He might work harder than I do, and that's not easy to do. He puts a lot of effort into his and in terms of the bracket and the jersey. I'm sure I'm the only one that will have picked the Panthers. So when they win, the jersey's probably mine. So don't join thinking you're guaranteed to get the jersey because that sucker's mine. Unless y'all got the guts to pick the Panthers. Good. All right.
Oh, Josh. By the way, if you can sign some people up, I post. Well, I have the Instagram chat group, but I'll also post it in our community or membership tab. There's an incentive for you to actually get people to sign up. Sort of.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that. To take a look at that. So, all right. And links to all the Nick stuff is going to be in the description for this video. So make sure you check him out. Even though, I know he's got like he zoomed past. We started this season close in subscribers, and overnight Nick has become Steve Dangle.
No, man. There are many faster horses than
is there? I don't know, man. Every time I refresh the page, it's another 50 subscribers for you. So It's good. It's good. You've earned it. You deserve it. All right. Appreciate you spending this time with us, Nick. And yeah, maybe around conference finals time we'll check in again and dive in a little bit deeper. Because obviously you're going to have to rearrange your picks because you weren't expecting the Panthers to be there. So you're going to need to rearrange things at that point. So, all right. Appreciate it, buddy. We'll see you again soon.